Hello, welcome to my YouTube channel, Stuff and Things, where we will talk about stuff and things, and occasionally things and then stuff. My name is Chris. The usual advice given when you first start a YouTube channel is to pick something you're passionate about, something you have knowledge about, and something that people actually give a damn about. So for me, that has to be movies and TV shows. I own a large collection of DVDs. It's been extremely pared down since I had to move in with my girlfriend, now wife. So it's probably only about 200 or so now. Takes up all these shelves behind me. There's also some books from my college classes I took in movies at SMU here in Dallas. Only 2 classes, don't worry. Wasn't overbearing. I couldn't tell you what the Dutch camera angles are or French New Wave really means, although I've seen some of those movies. So I thought, okay, I'll do that. I will go with movies, some of the ones I own that maybe people have never heard of, some of the ones that are harder to find on YouTube and Amazon Prime that people may miss. Sure, why not? Throw the dice, see what happens. So to start off with, kind of decided I needed to do the elephant in the room, as it were. The Rise of Skywalker. Now, as a child of the 70s, I, of course, saw all 3 of those original movies multiple times, and then when the prequels came out, I went and saw those multiple times. I own all those movies and have owned them all in pretty much every form you can get them in. VHS, the second group of VHSs, the first group of DVDs, the second group of DVDs. Did not buy them on Blu-ray. I'll do a video about why I didn't do that later. So when the new Disney movies came out, I would say I was excited. My buddy and I went to see Force Awakens, the midnight showing when it first was on, right at the Galaxy Theater here in Dallas, where they have 70-foot screens. So that's where you go to see these kinds of movies. And I was not horribly disappointed. It was okay. It wasn't great. But I went out and bought it. I thought it was pretty cool. It had some interesting angles it could go with. Then came The Last Jedi, which was without a doubt the worst movie I saw that year. It was full of plot holes, nonsensical dialogue, horrible editing, entire sections of the movie that made no sense. And I had no interest in seeing it again. It's the only Star Wars movie I've never seen more than once and definitely will never purchase. So when Rise of Skywalker came out, I'll be honest, I could have gone to my grave without ever seeing this movie and been perfectly happy. However, the wife wanted to go see it, so I, struggled for a month until finally I broke down and said, all right, fine. So yesterday we went to go see it. I would give it a general bleh. It was better than The Last Jedi. It was not very good. From the beginning on, there were problems. I felt it was weird. I actually laughed out loud when the scroll comes across the screen at the very beginning, because the first little headline looked like one of those blurbs they put on a 1950s monster movie ad. It came from beyond, or from out of death comes the monster. And I was like, good Lord. It was, I don't even remember what it was. It had something from beyond death. Good Lord. I mean, I had already known Emperor Palpatine was going to be in it, but hell, I didn't know they were going to do that shock and awe value in the opening credit lines. I was like, okay, sure, whatever. Not going to explain how or why or what physics were, completely ignored. I don't know. I don't know. Whatever. So then we go into that first part of the movie. This movie is like 50 parts. Usually there's a beginning, middle, and end in a movie. This one is just a mess. So it's just nonstop stuff happening. And then finally they need to do some exposition. So they stop. My wife, bless her, fell asleep in the first 20 minutes of the movie. And afterwards, when I asked her, she said, yeah, I fell asleep in the first 20 minutes of the movie because I had no idea what was happening. People were just running around. Yes. Yes, they were. There seemed to be really no reason to do it. I thought it was the future. But apparently, it's the future past. That's the only thing Star Wars is confused. I mean, they clearly have advanced technology, but they can't figure out how to figure where a planet is that people go to. And I don't know. I didn't understand the little triangle GPS thing. You know, I don't know. Kylo Ren knew where it was, apparently, and everybody else didn't. So then they had to go on the Legend of Zelda quest and break into the room and take the key to open the orange door and reveal the chest that will reveal the Wayfinder. I'm like, good Lord. Are you kidding me? I mean, couldn't you have figured out that the Wayfinder thing was on the wreckage of the last place the guy was at? I mean, wouldn't that logically be where he would put it? Whatever. And, you know, then there's that whole physics thing with the Death Star wreckage. You know, physics, people, come on. I saw that explosion. I saw it in 2 different versions of The Return of the Jedi. In both of them, there were not gigantic moon-sized pieces falling to the ground. But okay, sure. Roll with it. Okay, whatever. Then there's a whole bunch of stuff that happens, I know, after that first bit there, and Princess Leia says some stuff that doesn't help anyone, and there's that weird conversation with Rey where Rey says, I'll come back and earn Luke's lightsaber when I'm ready. And I'm like, you've just used it in 2 movies, dummy. And that doesn't even make any sense. You've already proven you were better than the Sith guy using Luke's lightsaber. You didn't build your own, so okay, don't get that. And then what happens 5 minutes later? She hands it back to her. So I'm like, okay, the parts of my life are never getting back, right? That 30 seconds of dialogue, just chalk it up to contributing to the end of my life, because I'm not getting it back. So we move on again, and there's more running around. They end up on, I don't know, Burning Man planet, I guess. It's some kind of religious festival. They don't really tell you what it is. Religious festival, but they don't tell you what it is they're religiousing about. I don't think. They may have in 1 or 2 words, and I missed it because there was so much other crap going on. You know, I don't know. And Lando Calrissian has apparently been stuck on this planet for 40 years or however long it's been. And why did Luke leave him? I don't understand that. Yeah, I came here with Luke, but then he, you know, stiffed me and left me here because he was an ass. You know, whatever. I mean, what's he doing? And didn't they say the celebration only happens once every 42 years? So it's only happened once since he's been there. What has he been doing the rest of the time? It doesn't make any sense. And then there's the ship that they're looking for by random character who dies. I don't know. The kidnapper of Rey's parents, whoever that guy was, some random dude who somehow knew about Sith stuff but wasn't a Sith. Sure, whatever. His ship is left remarkably unstripped of parts, despite the fact that we've been on every other world and people strip every ship of parts they can get their hands on. But not on this one. That's nice. Nice. Glad they didn't do that, because, you know, then the movie couldn't have happened. That would have been a real bummer if it had ended 30 minutes later. Well, oh well. So, you know, they go, and it magically, of course, starts. Every ship in this universe starts as soon as you turn the engine on for some reason. You know, my car won't start if I don't run it for 4 days, but, you know, interstellar spaceships with 1,000 million different parts sitting in all kinds of places, they start fine. Whether they've been underwater for years or in the desert or, you know, wherever. They start fine, no problem. It does give us the opportunity to meet that little Pixar nod thing with the wheel who just says, thank you, no thank you, no thank you. But magically holds, I don't know, some kind of blueprint or something to the entire plan of the Empire's battle fleet. I never even understood what he had in him. They were just like, hey, he's got this. Wow, that's cool. Let's plug it into this. Yay, we got stuff. I was like, I don't even know what they got. I didn't know what they were using that for. I didn't know what its name was, what its purpose was. What does it do? It didn't appear to do anything. I don't know. I don't know. You move on. Other stuff happens. There's stuff with Kylo Ren. You know, he's got, I don't know. It's like he's got a little transporter. He just magically shows up wherever Rey is all the time. I don't know what was going on with the phase in and phase out of reality thing that was happening. I'm in this place, you're in that place, but now we're fighting in the plane of reality and I'm taking stuff off of you, and I don't know. There was just confusion. Confusion at that point. Now, I have to admit, at about this part in the movie, and again, it was all such a jumbled mess, it's hard for me to tell you whether that's the beginning, middle, or near the end of the movie. But when he took the necklace from her, was that in the, I don't know what part of the movie that was in. We'll call it near the beginning, near the middle. I don't know. I had pretty much checked out, and I realized what I was watching. And I was watching Transformers 7. You know, a movie that looks cool with explosions and pew 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 and neat spaceships and stuff. But a plot that's totally nonsensical, editing choices that look like they just did it randomly, and a general blasé attitude in both the script and the acting. Okay, sure. I mean, I'm in here, so I guess I'll stay to the end and see how this disaster turns out. And it goes on, and there's the whole, we gotta destroy C-3PO's memory for some reason, so he can speak a language that he's not allowed to speak. Sure. Whatever. Why would it not be allowed to read Sith? I mean, it's not Lord of the Rings, right? You speak Mordor, what is it, the language of Mordor? Yeah, I think it is. If you speak that, bad things happen, right? I mean, everybody goes, it hurts my ears. I don't think that happens when you read Sith language. I mean, I don't know. I'm not versed in the canon and all that. Maybe it does. I don't know. I thought that was kind of odd. I also thought it was weird. He had no kind of removable device that would store all of his information on it, separate from his main memory. Like, you couldn't take out parts of his memory banks. You had to just take it all. Okay, sure. But don't worry, because R2-D2 has it all saved up. So we're going to be good. So that was another thing that annoyed me. Look, Chewie's dead. Just kidding. Except for Hux, right? Yeah. Find out who he is and instantaneously he's killed. And, that's another one. Didn't make a lot of sense. I just want Kylo Ren to lose. Why? You're not even in charge. They've already picked somebody else above you. So, you're still going to be second in command. Not sure why that matters. But okay. It's hard to wrap your head around it because there's just so much yuck coming at you a million miles an hour. I didn't understand at all what was going on with the muskox horses. Okay, it's a horse-sized muskox or something. It's got hair like a muskox. It's got horns like a muskox, except they come out of its mouth for some reason, which seems like a totally illogical evolutionary development for an animal that eats grass. I mean, it wasn't a cold planet. Why they had 40 pounds of hair on them? I guess just so you couldn't tell it was a horse? I don't know. I don't even know what to say about the scene where the horses come running down the ship. I was like, man, you have got to be kidding me. They sat in a room and thought this nonsense up. And again, I'm baffled by the total lack of defenses on these gigantic ships. No guns at all on the surface of them. No way any troop can come up except like 4 or 5 at a time. Yeah, weird. Nonsensical. Totally nonsensical. Whatever. I mean, a ship, don't ships this big have 100,000 troops on them and like tens of thousands of fighter pilots? I don't understand the purpose of these stupid ships in any of these Star Wars movies, going all the way back to the original ones. Why don't they send out like 5,000 fighters? I don't know. They send out like 100. I don't know. Whoever's in charge of strategy for the bad guys in Star Wars movies, he's really not very good at it. And if it's the Emperor, maybe he doesn't really know because he's hooked up to that giant ghost in the shell thing, where I don't know what that was. It's plugged into his head It's the size of an aircraft carrier. It goes up like 40 feet. It goes up like 600 feet into the air, and it's, big as around as a 3 or 4 automobiles. I'm like, what is that? What is that even for? I mean, whatever. I don't even understand what that is. And then they both get there, and the first thing that happens to them is, of course, neither one of them can hold on to a damn lightsaber. So he goes, yeah, and they drop their lightsabers instantly. I'm like, good Lord. Hello, cliche. How are you? That means we're going to have the struggle and the reaching for the lightsaber. Can I get to it in time? Come on, people. It's 2020. Still using the same tropes from 1930s Douglas Fairbanks movies. Ay, ay, ay. And then, of course, she just beats him. Yeah, she uses 2. And, Palpatine, despite being super powerful, manages to get himself obliterated using his own power. I don't know. But somehow that kills Rey. I didn't understand that. I mean, she blocked it all. But what, it just took so much of her life force to block all of that? Sure, whatever. Like I said, by this point, I'm looking for the end. Okay? I'm like, okay, man, can we just get through this? This is, it's something. Just trying to get through it. And lo and behold, Kylo Ren or Ben Solo or whatever the hell he's going by now has risen from the depths somehow. I don't know, maybe he force flew like his mom and came up out of the depths of the planet. And then he goes back and he gives his life to her. They kiss and he dies and instantly disappears. Well, not instantly. I mean, theoretically, she could have tried to put some life force back into him, but I guess she figured, she hesitated and then he disappeared. Okay, sure. I thought it was kind of a kick in the nuts to Ben Solo's character that at the end of the movie, the people she sees are Luke and Leia and not Ben. I mean, didn't he have the transformation and all that? When Anakin Skywalker went from Darth Vader and then died, he turned into Anakin Skywalker and was standing there next to Yoda and the rest of them. But Ben, yeah, he just gets screwed. Yeah, he's just, I guess, floating around, and the ether is neither a Sith nor a Jedi. I don't know. Nobody knows. They didn't even think about that at that point. At that point, they're like, was this ending? It's over. Done. Check. So, it ended. My wife woke up, I think, for the 3rd time. Maybe just the 2nd. And, I expressed a few things to her, and she was like, yeah, I don't know. I fell asleep in it twice. I don't even really know what was happening. It was just a lot of lights and sounds. And that's pretty much a pretty good description of it, actually. Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of the stuff people have gone into. Like I said, I'm not an expert in the canon of Star Wars. I don't have any of those encyclopedias of ships and creatures and all that stuff. You want to learn more about that stuff, check out Doom Conk's channel. He's got some multiple videos about this movie and where it fits in lore and things, and there's some very angry people out there. I think I agree somewhat with the overall premise that J.J. Abrams was trying to fix the errors in The Last Jedi. But, J.J. Abrams, all of his movies function the same way. There's action up and down, action, crazy, 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 and then exposition. Action, 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 exposition, action, action, exposition. And the problem with this particular movie is that there was way more action than there was exposition. So you couldn't really figure out what was happening. And then they would start talking, and you're like, I don't know what they're talking about. The running gag with what were you going to tell Rey? I don't even care. When you go that fast and that haphazardly through a movie, it's impossible to build up any caring. I mean, I think I probably teared up, if not straight up cried, when Han Solo died. because I had a vested interest in that guy from 1970 whatever. So that was a punch to the gut. I had no vested interest in Poe or Finn or Rey or Kylo Ren. I mean, Adam Driver is clearly the best actor in this group. That may have had something to do with more of what he had to work with. His character arc is a lot different, a lot more potential for good things to do as an actor. But I'm not sure the other two male leads could have pulled it off if the roles had been reversed. But still, you know, there's a lot of missed opportunities with these three movies. Like I said, I own The Force Awakens. I'm not going to own these other two. And I'm not probably going to watch them again. I have no desire to see them. If a movie is good and it's particularly good, I will buy it and keep it, and I'll watch it 30, 40 times. I mean, I've seen Blade Runner more times than I could count. I have 4 books about Blade Runner. I've seen, you know, Lawrence of Arabia 40 or 50 times. Seen Road Warrior 40 or 50 times. But these Disney Star Wars movies, no. I'm not watching them again. Just, you were hoping for something better. So now you're in a position of what comes next. What do they do? It's Disney. They're trying to make as much money as possible, so there will be more Star Wars stuff. You've got The Mandalorian. They'll figure out some way to come up with some other spin-off series, depending on the numbers they get back from The Mandalorian, I'm sure. They've got all their Marvel stuff that's slowly circling the drain, but they're trying to keep it alive for another 10, 15 years, I'm sure. So, you know, we'll see what they do going forward. Hopefully they can figure out a better plan. The secret to the first 3 movies is that George Lucas spent a lot of time with George Campbell, who wrote a book he wrote a lot of books. One of the books was called Myths and Legends. And it's all about archetype stories and how they interact and how they interconnect all over the world. Stories like Gilgamesh and, say, the Trojan War and various folk tales and all kinds of stuff like that. Beowulf, things like that, how they all have similar components, the classical hero journey, that kind of stuff. And so when he was writing his original screenplays, that's what George Lucas based his movies on. And that's why they work. Because they touch into things that have proven commodities in the human species. Okay? There are things that go on in those movies that help us and basically force us to feel a certain way about the characters in those movies, especially the first movie and the second movie. There was no attempt to do that in these movies. There was no attempt to create a major connection between the characters. We were just supposed to kind of run with it and say, yes, of course they're awesome. They're all amazing characters. They could have done a lot with them. They didn't. I'm still, upset about Captain Phasma. What was the purpose of that character? You had a good actress. You put her in a role that could have been pretty good as a foil for Finn or whoever, but instead they made her kind of a joke, and then they killed her off. I guess she was dead. That's a waste of talent to me. It's also a waste of writing. I mean, why create that character, give that character that much screen time, and then not even allow her in the third movie and kill her off? Seems kind of weird. But weirdness is kind of the whole thing with these Disney movies. So, they're over now for a little while at least, until I get beaten to death by one 5 or 6 years from now. Which I will just kind of look at the trailer and go, ugh. And then as it gets closer to, I will probably give in again and say, all right, fine. And then go see it and then post another video like this where I say, hopefully, hey, they wrote a story this time. It makes sense. So that's what I'm actually hoping for at some point. We'll see. So there you have it. That's going to be my opinion discussion about Rise of Skywalker, a general meh, and that's about all that needs to be said anymore. So make sure you hit the like button and subscribe and the little bell thing and all the stuff that gives you notifications of when I put out some new content. I'll probably do one a week. I might try to do two. We'll have to see. I mean, I got a job, so I'm not going to be spending 60 hours a week on YouTube. But when I can squeeze it in, I'll go ahead and do that. You have any comments? Make sure to leave them. If there's something you want me to watch and tell you whether it's any good or not, or just in general discuss, leave it in the comment section below, and